Courage is resistance to fear. Mastery of fear, not absence of fear. We are going to spend some quiet time with a simple but powerful thought. A thought about courage. A thought about fear. And a thought about what it really means to keep going when part of you would rather step back, stay safe, or avoid the discomfort in front of you. The words are often attributed to Mark Twain. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. At first, the quote seems straightforward. It tells us that courage does not mean having no fear. It does not mean being untouched by doubt. It does not mean being naturally bold, naturally confident, or naturally unshaken. Instead, courage begins in the presence of fear. It begins when fear is there, but it does not get the final word. Fear may speak. Fear may warn. Fear may tighten the chest, shorten the breath, or make the mind search for exits. But courage is the part of us that says, gently and firmly, I hear you. I understand why you are here. But I am still going to take the next step. This is not a loud kind of courage. It is not always heroic. It does not always look dramatic. Often, it is quiet. It is sending the email, making the appointment, having the conversation, trying again after embarrassment, returning to the work after a setback, standing up after a difficult day and doing one small thing that matters. Tonight, we will look at this idea slowly. We will begin with a little about Mark Twain, the writer behind the quote. Then we will explore what the quote means. We will consider how fear affects daily life. And then we will move gently through practical mechanisms for dealing with discomfort, facing fears, and building courage over time. Not by forcing ourselves. Not by pretending fear is not there. But by learning how to meet fear with steadiness. So for now, settle in. Let the shoulders soften. Let the jaw loosen. Let the breath find its own rhythm. There is nowhere else to be for these next few moments. Only here. Only this. Only the quiet practice of understanding courage. If you are listening in bed, you do not need to memorize anything. You do not need to solve anything tonight. You can simply allow the words to move through the room like soft light. Some ideas may stay with you. Some may drift away. Both are fine. This is about courage, but it is also about rest. Because courage grows better when it is not built from panic. It grows better when it is built from steadiness. And steadiness often begins in the body. So breathe gently. Let the night become quiet around you. And let us begin. A little about Mark Twain. Mark Twain was the pen name of Samuel Langhorne Clemens. He was born in 1835 in Missouri, in the United States, and he grew up beside the Mississippi River. That river became one of the great shaping forces of his life. Before he became known around the world as a writer, he worked as a printer, a journalist, and a riverboat pilot. The name Mark Twain itself came from the language of river navigation. It referred to a safe depth of water for a riverboat. So even his chosen name carried the feeling of measurement, movement, danger, judgment, and safe passage. Twain became one of the most famous American writers of the 19th century. He wrote novels, essays, travel books, lectures, sketches, and sharp observations about human nature. His best-known works include The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. But Twain was not only a comic writer. He was a moral observer. He noticed the contradictions in people. He noticed our foolishness, our pride, our fear, our kindness, our cruelty, and our ability to talk ourselves into almost anything. Part of Twain's power as a writer was that he could say something serious in plain words. He did not always need grand language. He often used humor to get past people's defenses. He could make people laugh, and then, almost without warning, make them realize he had been telling the truth all along. The quote we are considering tonight comes from that same plain-speaking tradition. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. It sounds simple. But like many simple sentences, it becomes deeper the longer we sit with it. Twain understood that people are complicated. We can be brave and afraid at the same time. We can want to move forward and want to run away. We can know what matters and still hesitate before doing it. That is not failure. That is being human. And perhaps this is why the quote lasts. Because it does not shame fear. It does not mock nervousness. It does not say that a brave person is fearless. It says the opposite. A brave person is someone who knows fear, feels fear, and then learns how to work with it. That is the doorway into tonight's reflection. Courage is not a personality type. It is a practice. It is not something only a few people are born with. It is something we return to, little by little, through the ordinary tests of daily life. The meaning of the quote. Let us take the quote slowly. Courage is resistance to fear. Resistance does not mean denial. It does not mean pretending fear is not present. It means that fear is present, but we do not automatically obey it. Fear says, stay away. Courage says, let us look more carefully. Fear says, this will be unbearable. Courage says, perhaps it will be uncomfortable, but perhaps I can handle more than I think. Fear says, do not start. Courage says, I can begin with one small step. Resistance to fear is the moment between feeling and action. It is the pause, the breath, the small space where we notice what fear is asking us to do. Then we choose. Not always perfectly, not always confidently, but consciously. Then the quote says, mastery of fear. Mastery does not mean complete control. It does not mean we can command fear to disappear. It means we become more skillful in our relationship with fear. We learn its language. We learn its patterns. We learn when it is protecting us from real danger and when it is protecting us from growth. This is important. Fear is not the enemy. Fear has a purpose. It exists to keep us alive. It tells us to pay attention. It can sharpen the senses, focus the mind, and prepare the body to respond. But fear can also become overprotective. It can treat embarrassment as danger. It can treat uncertainty as catastrophe. It can treat discomfort as proof that we should stop. Mastery of fear means we stop taking every fear message as an instruction. We learn to ask, is this fear warning me of genuine danger? Or is it warning me that I am near the edge of my comfort zone? Is this fear protecting my safety? Or is it protecting my avoidance? Is this fear asking me to be careful? Or is it asking me to stay small? And finally, the quote says, not absence of fear. This may be the most freeing part. Because many people wait to feel fearless before they act. They wait to feel ready before they begin. They wait for confidence before they speak. They wait for certainty before they commit. They wait for calm before they move. But life often asks us to act before we feel ready. The conversation may need to happen while the voice is still shaking. The application may need to be sent while doubt is still present. The first step may need to be taken while the mind is still asking, what if this goes wrong? Courage is not the absence of those feelings. Courage is the choice to move with them. Not recklessly, not carelessly, but steadily. This means fear does not disqualify us. Fear does not mean we are weak. Fear does not mean we are failing. Fear may simply mean we are approaching something important. Think of a person standing at the edge of a difficult conversation. They know something needs to be said. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. Perhaps there is a boundary to set. Perhaps there is an apology to make. Fear appears. It says, leave it alone. It says, they might react badly. It says, you might not find the right words. The absence of fear would be easy. But most people do not get that luxury. Instead, courage looks like preparing carefully, breathing slowly, choosing respectful words, and beginning. Or think of someone returning to exercise after illness. Or returning to work after a failure. Or returning to creativity after criticism. Or returning to trust after disappointment. Fear may come along. But courage says, we are not going to sprint. We are not going to pretend this is easy. But we are going to return. One step. One page. One conversation. one breath. That is the meaning of the quote. Courage is not a feeling we wait for. It is a relationship we build. It is a skill we practice. It is a quiet decision to remain connected to what matters, even when fear is present. This interpretation also changes how we think about setbacks. A setback is not proof that courage has failed. A setback is part of the place where courage is practiced. If fear appears after a setback, that is understandable. The mind remembers pain. The body remembers tension. The imagination says, do not go back there. But resilience is built by returning to the work after setbacks. Returning does not mean forcing yourself to repeat the same mistake. It means reviewing what happened, learning from it, and choosing the next honest step. The quote does not call for loud defiance. It calls for mastery. And mastery is patient. Mastery is observant. Mastery learns. Mastery does not need fear to disappear before it begins. Fear in daily life. Fear does not only appear in dramatic moments. It appears in ordinary ones. It appears on Monday mornings. It appears before phone calls. It appears before meetings. It appears in relationships. It appears when we try to learn something new. It appears when we need to admit we do not know. It appears when we are tired, stretched, uncertain, or under pressure. Daily life is full of small thresholds. A threshold is a crossing point. Before it, we are in the known. After it, we are in the uncertain. And fear often waits at thresholds. The threshold may be sending a proposal. It may be opening a bill. It may be starting a course. It may be walking into a room. It may be asking for help. It may be saying no. It may be saying yes. It may be telling the truth. The strange thing about fear is that it often grows in the space before action. Before we start, the mind imagines every possible difficulty. It creates scenes. It writes scripts. It predicts judgment. It rehearses failure. It tells us that discomfort is a sign to delay. But many people discover something important. Starting is often harder than continuing. Before we begin, fear has room to expand. Once we begin, attention has somewhere to go. The mind stops circling and starts engaging. The body receives evidence. The imagined monster becomes a real task. And real tasks can be handled one part at a time. This is why the quote can help in daily life. It reminds us not to wait for fear to vanish before we do what matters. It reminds us that resistance to fear can be very small. It can be opening the document, putting on the shoes, writing the first sentence, dialing the number, asking the first question, sitting with discomfort for 10 more seconds. Fear can also affect daily life through avoidance. Avoidance is understandable. When something makes us anxious, avoiding it brings quick relief. We cancel. We delay. We distract. We put it off until tomorrow. And in the short term, the nervous system relaxes. But avoidance has a cost. It teaches the mind that the thing avoided was dangerous. The next time, fear may be stronger. The avoided task may feel heavier. The conversation may become more loaded. The unopened letter may feel more threatening. The unstarted work may feel larger than it is. This is one of the quiet ways fear shapes a life. Not always by stopping us dramatically, but by shrinking the edges. Little by little, the comfort zone can become smaller. We avoid one thing, then another. We tell ourselves we will deal with it later. But later becomes heavier. Courage reverses that pattern. Not all at once. Not with grand gestures. But by expanding the edges again. A little conversation. A small action. A gentle attempt. A return. A retry. In daily life, courage might look like this. You are nervous about speaking in a meeting, so you decide to ask one clear question. Not give a speech. Not dominate the room. Just ask one question. You are afraid of rejection, so you send one application. Not 50. Not with pressure to transform your whole life overnight. Just one honest application. You are overwhelmed by clutter, so you clear one surface. Not the whole house. Just one surface. You are avoiding a health appointment, so you write down the number. Then later, you call. Then later, you attend. Courage in daily life is often built in pieces. Small enough to do. Meaningful enough to matter. Repeated often enough to change us. There is another daily impact of this quote. It changes how we judge ourselves. Many people are harsh with themselves for feeling afraid. They say, I should be over this. I should be stronger. Why am I like this? Other people cope better. But if courage requires fear, then fear is not proof of failure. Fear is the raw material. You cannot resist fear if there is no fear. You cannot master fear if there is no fear. You cannot practice courage in a world where nothing unsettles you. So the presence of fear can be reframed. Instead of saying, I am afraid, so I cannot do this, we might say, I am afraid, so this is a chance to practice courage gently. Instead of saying, I should not feel this way, we might say, this is a human feeling. I can make room for it. Instead of saying, I have to defeat fear, we might say, I can take one useful action while fear is present. That one shift can change the day. Not every day. Not instantly. But often enough to matter. Mechanism 1. Name the fear. The first practical mechanism is simple. Name the fear. Fear becomes more powerful when it stays vague. A vague fear can feel endless. Something is wrong. This will be awful. I cannot do this. Everything is too much. But when we name the fear, we give it edges. We turn a fog into a shape. And once something has a shape, we can work with it. Naming the fear might sound like this. I am afraid I will be judged. I am afraid I will fail. I am afraid I will disappoint someone. I am afraid I will not know what to say. I am afraid I will feel embarrassed. I am afraid I will start and not finish. I am afraid this will prove something bad about me. Notice how different that is from simply saying, I am afraid. The more specific statement gives you something to examine. If the fear is judgment, the response may be self-acceptance and preparation. If the fear is failure, the response may be defining a small first attempt. If the fear is not knowing what to say, the response may be writing 3 sentences in advance. If the fear is embarrassment, the response may be remembering that embarrassment is uncomfortable but survivable. Naming fear also creates a little distance. Instead of saying, I am fear, we say, I am noticing fear. That small change matters. I am noticing fear. I am noticing a tight chest. I am noticing the thought that I cannot cope. I am noticing the urge to avoid. When we say, I am noticing, we become the observer. We are no longer fully swallowed by the experience. We are the person having the experience. That gives us space. And space gives us choice. Try this phrase quietly. I am noticing fear, and I can still take one gentle step. Again. I am noticing fear, and I can still take one gentle step. This phrase does not fight fear. It makes room for fear without surrendering to it. There is another useful question. What is fear trying to protect me from? Fear often has a protective intention. It may be trying to protect you from rejection, from shame, from loss, from uncertainty, from disappointment, from vulnerability. You do not have to agree with fear's strategy to understand its concern. You can say, thank you, fear. I know you are trying to protect me. But avoidance is not the only way to be safe. I can proceed carefully. This is fear mastery, not suppression, not denial. A wiser relationship. For daily life, the naming mechanism can be used in 3 short steps. Step 1. Name the situation. What am I facing? Step 2. Name the fear. What am I afraid might happen? Step 3. Name the next useful action. What is one small thing I can do now? For example, situation. I need to speak to my manager about workload. Fear. I am afraid I will be seen as difficult. Next useful action. I will write down the facts and ask for a 10-minute conversation. Another example. Situation. I have avoided checking my bank balance. Fear. I am afraid of what I will see. Next useful action. I will open the app, look for 2 minutes, and write down the number without judging myself. Another situation. I want to start exercising again. Fear. I am afraid I am too far behind. Next useful action. I will walk for 10 minutes tomorrow. The mechanism is modest. But courage is often modest. It begins where we are, not where we wish we were. Mechanism 2. The fear ladder. The second mechanism is the fear ladder. This is a way of approaching fear gradually, not by throwing yourself into the hardest situation, not by overwhelming the nervous system, but by creating steps. Many people think facing fear means doing the scariest thing immediately, but that can backfire. If the step is too large, the body may panic. The mind may conclude, this really is too much. Then avoidance becomes stronger. A fear ladder is different. It breaks the feared situation into small, manageable rungs. You begin low. You repeat. You allow discomfort. You learn that the fear can rise and fall. Then you move up gradually. Imagine someone who fears public speaking. The top of the ladder might be, give a 20-minute presentation to a large group. That may feel like a 90 out of 100. Too high to begin. So we build lower rungs. Read one paragraph aloud alone. Record a 30-second voice note and listen back. Read a short paragraph to one trusted person. Ask one question in a small meeting. Share a 2-minute update with a friendly group. Practice a 5-minute talk on video. Give a short presentation to 3 colleagues. Then, eventually, give the larger presentation. Each rung matters. Each rung teaches the body. I can feel anxious and stay. I can feel discomfort and continue. I can make mistakes and survive. I can improve through repetition. This is practical courage. It is not dramatic. It is trained. To build a fear ladder, use this process. First, choose one fear. Not every fear in your life. Just one. Second, define the meaningful goal. What would you like to be able to do? Not what should you do. Not what someone else expects. What would give you more freedom? Third, list possible steps from easiest to hardest. Make them specific, small, realistic. Fourth, rate each step from 0 to 100. 0 means no discomfort. 100 means overwhelming fear. Fifth, begin with a step that is uncomfortable but doable. Often somewhere around 20 or 30. Not too easy. Not too much. Sixth, repeat the step until the fear reduces. Not necessarily to 0. Just enough to learn. Enough to show the body that it can cope. Seventh, move up slowly. Do not rush. Courage grows through evidence. The nervous system trusts what it experiences repeatedly. Let us consider another example. A person fears difficult conversations. The goal is to be able to raise concerns calmly instead of avoiding them. A ladder might look like this. Write down what I need to say, but do not send it. Practice saying it aloud alone. Practice with a trusted friend. Send a short message asking for a conversation. Have a 5-minute conversation about a low-stakes issue. Set one small boundary politely. Raise a more important issue using prepared notes. Notice that courage is not only in the final conversation. Courage is in the writing, the practicing, the asking, the first small boundary, the steady build. Now think of discomfort more broadly. Perhaps the fear is not one obvious phobia. Perhaps it is the discomfort of starting, the discomfort of being seen, the discomfort of not being perfect, the discomfort of uncertainty. You can still build a ladder. For perfectionism, the ladder may involve doing something imperfectly on purpose. Send a short draft instead of over-polishing. Ask a question before you have mastered the topic. Share a work in progress. Let a small typo go in a personal note. For uncertainty, the ladder may involve making small decisions without excessive checking. Choose lunch without reviewing every option. Leave the house without checking the weather 3 times. Make a minor purchase without reading 30 reviews. Commit to one plan for the weekend. For social discomfort, the ladder may involve gentle contact. Smile at a neighbor. Say good morning. Ask a shop assistant a simple question. Send a message to a friend. Attend a short gathering for 30 minutes. The ladder teaches a deep lesson. The way through fear is not always force. Sometimes the way through fear is structure. A path. A sequence. A small next rung. And every rung says the same thing. I do not need the absence of fear. I need one workable step. Mechanism 3. Change the conversation with fear. The third mechanism is changing the conversation with fear. Fear often speaks in predictions. It says, "This will go wrong. You will not cope. They will think badly of you. You will fail. It will be unbearable. There is no point trying." These thoughts can feel like facts. But often, they are not facts. They are threat predictions. They are the mind attempting to protect us by imagining danger in advance. A practical way to work with this is to write the thought down and examine it. Not argue with it aggressively. Not pretend everything will be fine. Just examine it like evidence. Ask, what is the fear predicting? What evidence supports that prediction? What evidence does not support it? What is a more balanced view? What would I say to a friend in this situation? What is one useful action I can take even if the fear is partly true? This last question is important. Because courage is not based on guaranteeing success. It is based on being willing to act wisely without guarantees. For example, the fear says, "If I speak up, people will think I am stupid." A balanced response might be, "Some people may disagree with me. That does not mean they think I am stupid. I can ask a clear question. Even if it is not perfect, I can handle that." Another example. The fear says, "If I try and fail, it will prove I am not good enough." A balanced response. Failing at one attempt does not define my worth. It gives me information. I can try in a small way, review what happened, and adjust. Another. The fear says, "This discomfort will never end." A balanced response. Discomfort rises and falls. I have felt difficult things before. I can stay for a short time and see what happens. Changing the conversation with fear does not mean becoming falsely positive. False positivity says, "Everything will be fine. Nothing bad can happen. There is no reason to worry." Balanced courage says, "Some things may be difficult. Some outcomes are uncertain. But I can prepare, respond, learn, and recover." This is a stronger position. It does not depend on fantasy. It depends on trust in your ability to meet reality. Another helpful phrase is, "Maybe, and still. Maybe I will feel awkward, and still I can be kind to myself. Maybe the answer will be no, and still I can ask. Maybe I will need to try again, and still the first attempt matters. Maybe I will feel nervous, and still I can breathe and continue." This phrase is powerful because it does not fight possibility. It allows uncertainty. Then it adds agency. Maybe, and still. Fear often tries to make us believe that uncertainty is a stop sign. Courage teaches us that uncertainty is part of the road. Another useful practice is to separate story from fact. A fact is, "I have a meeting tomorrow." A story is, "Everyone will judge me." A fact is, "I made a mistake in the report." A story is, "This means I am useless." A fact is, "I do not know the outcome yet." A story is, "The outcome will be terrible." When fear rises, ask, what are the facts? What is the story my fear is adding? This creates clarity. And clarity supports courage. The mind may still produce fearful stories. That is normal. The aim is not to silence the mind completely. The aim is to stop handing the steering wheel to every fearful story. You can thank the mind. Thank you, mind. You are trying to protect me. Then return to the next useful action. Again, courage is not absence of fear. It is mastery. Mastery means we listen, examine, and choose. Mechanism 4. Values before comfort. The fourth mechanism is values before comfort. Fear often asks, how can I feel safe right now? How can I get relief right now? How can I avoid discomfort right now? Those are understandable questions. But they are not always the questions that build a meaningful life. A different question is, what matters here? Values are the qualities and commitments that give direction. They are not goals exactly. A goal can be completed. A value is lived. Honesty is a value. Kindness is a value. Learning is a value. Responsibility is a value. Creativity is a value. Health is a value. Family is a value. Service is a value. Growth is a value. Fear narrows attention. Values widen it again. Fear says, avoid pain. Values say, move toward meaning. This does not mean ignoring feelings. It means letting meaning have a voice too. Imagine someone who values health but fears the discomfort of beginning. Fear says, do not go for the walk. You are tired. It will be uncomfortable. Start another day. The value says, my health matters. I do not need to do everything. I can walk for 10 minutes. Imagine someone who values honesty but fears conflict. Fear says, say nothing. Keep the peace. Do not risk the reaction. The value says, kind honesty matters. I can speak respectfully and clearly. Imagine someone who values creativity but fears criticism. Fear says, do not share the work. It is not good enough. People may not understand. The value says, creating matters to me. I can share with one safe person. I can keep improving. A simple values mechanism has 4 parts. First, name the fear. Second, name the value. Third, choose the smallest action that honors the value. Fourth, make the action easy to begin. For example, fear, I am afraid of looking foolish. Value, learning. Small action, ask one beginner question. Make it easy, write the question down before the meeting. Another, fear, I am afraid of rejection. Value, connection. Small action, send one warm message. Make it easy, keep it short and sincere. Another, fear, I am afraid of being overwhelmed. Value, responsibility. Small action, spend 15 minutes organizing the problem. Make it easy, set a timer and stop when it rings. Values do not remove discomfort, but they make discomfort meaningful. And meaningful discomfort is easier to bear than pointless discomfort. This is an important distinction. Courage is not about seeking discomfort for its own sake. It is not about making life harder to prove something. It is about accepting necessary discomfort in service of something that matters. Not all discomfort is useful. Some discomfort is a warning. Some situations require boundaries, rest, help, or leaving. Courage includes discernment. But when discomfort stands between us and something meaningful, we can learn to carry it. Not forever. Not all at once. But long enough to take the next step. A helpful phrase is, this is uncomfortable, and it matters. Again, this is uncomfortable, and it matters. That phrase can be used before a difficult task, before a conversation, before a first attempt, before returning to something after a setback. It does not make discomfort pleasant. Mechanism 5. Return after setbacks. The meaning of the quote includes this idea. Resilience is built by returning to the work after setbacks. This is essential. Because courage is not only about beginning. It is also about returning. Many people can begin when the energy is high. A new plan. A new year. A new notebook. A new commitment. But then reality arrives. There is a bad day. A missed session. A harsh comment. A delay. A mistake. A rejection. And fear says, "See? This proves it. Stop now before it hurts more." But resilience is often built in the return. Not in never falling away. Not in never losing confidence. Not in never having a difficult week. But in coming back. The return is a powerful act. Returning says, "This setback is part of the process, not the end of the process." Returning says, "I do not need to restart perfectly. I only need to restart honestly." Returning says, "I am allowed to learn. I am allowed to be human. I am allowed to continue." There is a practical mechanism for returning after setbacks. It is called the reset ritual. A reset ritual is a simple, repeatable sequence you use when you have drifted, avoided, failed, or stopped. It prevents the mind from turning one setback into an identity. The reset ritual has 5 steps. Step 1. Name what happened without drama. I missed 3 days. I avoided the conversation. I made a mistake. I stopped practicing. I got overwhelmed. Step 2. Remove the identity story. This does not mean I am lazy. This does not mean I am weak. This does not mean I cannot do it. This means I had a setback. Step 3. Learn one thing. What made it harder? Was the step too big? Was I tired? Did I lack support? Did I forget why it mattered? Was I trying to do too much at once? Step 4. Choose the smallest restart. Not the perfect restart. The smallest restart. 5 minutes. 1 email. 1 sentence. 1 walk. 1 call. 1 honest apology. Step 5. Do it soon. Not someday. Soon. Because the longer we wait, the heavier the return can feel. This reset ritual is a kindness and a discipline. It refuses shame. But it also refuses surrender. That balance is important. Too much harshness, and we collapse. Too much softness without action, and we drift. The reset says, be kind. Be honest. Begin again. This is courage after disappointment. It is mastery of fear after fear has already scored a point. A setback does not cancel courage. Returning is courage. Think of the river again. A river does not move in a straight line. It bends. It slows. It meets rocks. It changes course. But it keeps moving. The courageous life is not a straight line either. It bends. It pauses. It struggles. It resumes. The question is not, how do I avoid ever falling back? The question is, how do I return with less shame and more wisdom? That is resilience. Mechanism 6 and closing sleep descent. The final mechanism is practicing discomfort safely. This may sound strange at first. Why practice discomfort? Because many fears are maintained by the belief that discomfort is unbearable. If we gently practice tolerating discomfort, the body learns a new message. This is uncomfortable, but I can stay. This is not about harming yourself. It is not about pushing through pain. It is not about ignoring real limits. It is about small, safe, chosen moments of discomfort that build confidence. For example, taking a cold to cool shower for the final 10 seconds. Waiting 30 seconds before checking your phone. Letting someone else finish speaking before you jump in to fix the silence. Starting a task before you feel ready. Walking for 10 minutes when you would rather stay still. Tidying one area when the whole room feels too much. These are small practices, but they teach the same lesson. An urge is not an order. Discomfort is not danger. I can choose. One of the most useful discomfort practices is the 10-second pause. When you feel the urge to avoid, pause for 10 seconds. Do not force action immediately. Just pause. Feel the urge. Name it. Breathe. You might say, "This is the urge to avoid. It is strong, but it will move. I can wait 10 seconds. Often, after 10 seconds, you may still want to avoid. That is okay. But now you have practiced not obeying instantly. That is resistance to fear. Another practice is the 2-minute start. Choose a task you are avoiding. Agree to do only 2 minutes. Open the file. Put on the shoes. Clear the first item. Write the first rough sentence. The aim is not to finish. The aim is to begin. Because beginning changes the relationship with fear. Once you begin, you may continue. Or you may stop after 2 minutes. Either way, you have kept the promise. You have resisted fear's demand for total avoidance. Another practice is the honest sentence. When a conversation feels too difficult, prepare one honest sentence. Not the whole conversation. Just the doorway. For example, "There is something I would like to talk about, and I may not say it perfectly." Or, "I have been avoiding this because I felt uncomfortable, but I think it matters." Or, "Can we talk about what happened? I would like to understand it better." A single honest sentence can open a path. Another practice is the recovery plan. Before doing something difficult, ask, "How will I look after myself afterwards?" This matters because courage uses energy. After a difficult action, the body may need settling. A walk, a cup of tea, a quiet room, a few notes, a kind message to yourself. Recovery is not weakness. Recovery is part of courage. It tells the body, we can do hard things, and we can care for ourselves afterwards. This makes future courage easier, because the nervous system learns that facing fear does not mean abandonment. It means support. So the discomfort practice can be summarized like this. Choose small. Choose safe. Choose meaningful. Stay briefly. Recover kindly. Repeat. That repetition builds mastery. We are nearing the end of this quiet reflection. So let us return to the quote once more. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. You do not need to become fearless. You do not need to erase every doubt. You do not need to feel confident before you begin. Courage can begin while the hands are uncertain. Courage can begin while the voice is soft. Courage can begin while the heart is still beating faster than usual. It can begin as a breath, as a pause, as a named fear, as a small rung on a ladder, as a balanced thought, as a value remembered, as a return after a setback, as a gentle restart. Fear may still visit. That is all right. Fear is part of being alive. It is part of caring. It is part of standing near the edge of growth. The goal is not to banish fear. The goal is to stop letting fear decide everything alone. You can listen to fear. You can respect the body's signals. You can move carefully. And you can still move. So perhaps tomorrow, courage will not look dramatic. Perhaps it will look ordinary. Opening the thing you have avoided. Taking the first step. Saying the honest sentence. Returning to the work. Resting without giving up. Trying again. Gently. And if tomorrow is difficult, remember this. Starting is often harder than finishing. Returning is part of resilience. Discomfort is not always danger. Fear is not failure. And courage is available in small pieces. One breath. One step. One rung. One return. Let the body rest now. There is nothing more to solve tonight. Nothing to prove. nothing to force. The work of courage can wait until morning. For now, there is only rest. Let the breath soften. Let the day loosen its grip. Let thoughts pass like clouds across a darkening sky. If fear appears, you do not need to fight it. You can simply say, I hear you. Not now. Tonight, we rest. And quietly, beneath the surface, something continues to grow. Not fearlessness. Something better. Steadiness. The steady knowledge that you can feel fear and still choose. You can meet discomfort and still breathe. You can fall away and still return. You can begin again. Rest now. Let courage become quiet. Let the night hold the unfinished things. Let the body settle. Let the mind drift. One breath. One step. One return. And for tonight, that is enough.